Hello there and welcome to this week's Granny's Garden. Now this week it's all about spring seed sowing and I'm going to be using several different techniques. Now I have a range of seeds here in front of me that go from some that are really easy and great for beginners because practically they sort themselves out and they germinate very, very quickly. And then I've got others that are, well, a little bit finicky, but there's always hardliners, aren't there? And then I have two jewels in the bunch. One is a native of Japan and one is a native of Spain. Both very rare and both very beautiful. Now here we are at what I call my winter table. It's basically where I overwinter my plants. I've got my coleus cuttings here and I've got my lemon seedlings also. And this is where I'm going to be planting my seeds because it's warmer than outside. I have got my seeds, seed trays, pots, grow lights, heat mats, labels, marker, soil and of course me. So we are ready to go. Now before even starting to sow any seeds at all, we need to know one important date, and that is the date of the last frost in your particular area, and it's going to be different for everybody. In my particular case, it is the 7th of April. On the back of every seed packet, it says start indoor sowing 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date, 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost date, and you've got to stick to the plan. I have written out my plan, and I'm going to be starting the seeds that need to be sown 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost date, and I'm at the 15th of February today. At this stage of winter, we're all really keen to get our hands dirty and start planting, but you need to breathe. Now what is important is to stick to your seed sowing plan. I've got it both on paper and I've got it on my telephone, and when the date to sow a particular variety pops up on my phone, it's going to keep nagging at me until I get it marked as done. Now, it is important, as I said, to stick to the plan, because if I pick up this group, which is for 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost date, if I plant them now, all I'm going to have in a few weeks' time is very large overgrown seedlings that can't be planted out because it's too cold, and all I'll have done is waste money and waste seeds. So these ones are going to go back in their doggy box and they're going to sit there until the proper date. And now we're going to crack on with the ones that can be planted today. Now the first ones are zinnias. Well, what can you say about zinnias? They're dead easy, great for beginners, and I will say just one thing, plant them in succession. I'm going to be planting today, the 15th of February, again on the 8th of March, and again about the 4th or 5th of April, and that way I'm going to extend the flowering season. You just plant them 1/4 of an inch down, pop them over with your hand, and between 4 to 7 days later, you've got a germinated seedling. Dead easy. Now this is just a normal seedling starting tray, not self-watering or anything sophisticated. It's just the bottom tray, the seedling and the dome on top. Simple as that. Before I get my hands dirty, I just want to write out the label. In the case of the zinnias, as I'm doing succession, I'm going to put the name of the plant and also the date. Now I'm just going to skip over this very quickly because you all probably know it. Soil should be moist, that it keeps its form when you push it together, but it doesn't sort of squeeze water out. So I'm going to quickly fill this. Now I'm just going to pop this into its base, makes it stronger. That's better. And now I'm just going to make little holes, 1/4 of an inch down, so about 1 centimetre. So I'm just going to put a couple in each hole. And just lightly cover it up with your fingers. And that basically is that. And I'm just going to give this a little misting. And then to keep the moisture in, we'll just put a little top knot on it. Put the roof on its house. And that's all there is to it. Now the next one is Archilechia or Columbine. Now I've got two types. The commercial type, which is this one here, which is the commercial mix. And then a more specialised one. The specialised ones tend to come in tiny little bags and they get very few seeds. This is a Archilechia Doble Negra, which is a double black Archilechia, really pretty. Now, this technique is different. Instead of putting it in a seedling tray, I'm going to put it directly into a little pot. So I'm going to sow one pot with the mixed, one pot with the double black, and as soon as I've finished, I'm going to cover it lightly with soil on the top, and it's going to go straight into the fridge until the 8th of March. So we're just filling the pots now with soil. You don't have to go right up to the top. First of all, I'm going to put the double black. Now these are quite small, so I'm just going to, like as if I was putting salt on my dinner. I'm not using all of them. Now again, I'm just going to push it lightly down. Push it lightly down with my fingers, and then I'm going to sprinkle a light layer of soil on top. A little bit more. Now the next one I'm going to be planting is the jewels of Opar. Now hopefully this is the seeds, because it arrived in a package, and if I open the package, it's got nothing on the outside to say what it is. This is just planting instructions, but no name. And then if I get the seeds out, again, no name. So it could be anything. I've done it by deduction. I've looked at all the seeds I had on order. Most of them got names on them, and there's only one, the Jewels of Opar, that didn't have a name. So I'm assuming it's this one. We'll soon find out in a few weeks' time. So anyway, it's different. If you remember the zinnia, it was a 1/4 inch down and you covered it up. This is different. It needs light to germinate, so it's going to lie on the surface of the seedling tray, and I'll be using grow lights. I'm going to be using grow lights as well for the zinnias, so all in the same tray. So slightly different technique. I'm just going to be using 2 to each cell. Now I'm just going to push lightly with my hands to make sure there's contact. And if I put them close to the camera, you should be able to see them. Now between 6 to 12 days I should have germination here, so dead easy to germinate. What's nice about this plant is that it grows in very hot, dry areas, and I've got some of those in my garden, obviously in Spain. With the hot, dry summers, you do have certain areas that get very, very dry and hot in the summer, so this will be perfect. It is like a type of succulent, so it acts as a type of succulent. It can withstand drought, and it looks very luxurious, so it's like exuberant. You get this beautiful sort of like chartreuse or lime green leaf or foliage in an area that's really hot and dry, so nice contrast there. We are now down to the last 2 seeds for today, and I've kept the best for last. They're the real jewels of my crown for this season. Now, this one is called Glaucidium Palmatum. I saw this in Rachel's garden. Rachel meaning gardening at Douentza in Ireland, and of course I'd see it in her garden, where else? Because Rachel is known for her unique and rare plants. As soon as I saw this plant in her garden, I had to have it. Its common name within its rarity is Japanese woodland poppy, or Japanese wood poppy. And it grows sort of like in shady woodland areas. And it's the area I'm trying to plant at the moment anyway. So I said this would be absolutely perfect. So I did try to source it in Spain, and that was, as usual, not surprisingly, a total dead end. Now normally with this type of thing I would direct my inquiries to the UK. However, since Brexit is a reality on the 31st of December, all my standing orders, like for wild bird seeds with the UK, have come to a grinding halt. All my orders for January were cancelled, and now they've just cancelled my orders for February. So I'm having to source elsewhere. Now, I contacted Rachel, and she nudged me in the right direction towards a Germany specialist company called Gerito. So I ordered online with them, very, very efficient, typically German, and they sent out by FedEx the seeds in less than 48 hours. Fantastic. So, here they are. Like most of the divas in the plant world, they can be a bit finicky to germinate, and I've been doing some research on it, and certainly I've got some advice that's a bit unusual to germinate. They need several months of cool or cold, moist compost, and they suggest never putting it in the fridge because that's too dry. What they do suggest is planting it and leaving it out under the snow for a few weeks, because that keeps a perfect level of temperature and of moisture. It's an absolute shame I didn't get the seeds 3 weeks ago when we got hit by the blizzard, and then it would have been under the snow for 3 weeks. That would have been good. Unfortunately now that is not the case, so we're going to have to imitate it in other ways. So what I'll do is just with plastic or some sort, I'm going to create a little moisture dome and put it in the fridge for a couple of weeks. And then when it comes out, I'm going to put it to the side of the house that receives absolutely 0 sun hours a day for a few weeks to see if I can get it to germinate that way. If I see, because we're towards the end of February, that the temperatures are rising too much, then I'll come down here to the basement. Because the basement here is always controlled by temperature, And at this time of year, I rarely have temperatures above 12 degrees centigrade or below 9 degrees centigrade, so it's pretty stable. So it's cool and not bright, so perfect temperature and perfect ambience for a little diva. So my first task is to get it to germinate. And then my second task will be to get it to survive. Because I have, as I said, this little woodland area, but in summer we are in Spain, and this plant likes cool, moist soil. I can give it the shade, and I can certainly give it moisture. And I want to try and balance this to see if I keep it really, really moist, can it withstand the July and August temperatures here? And once September comes, the temperatures become a lot kinder, and we can get back down to what feels cozier for the plant. So we'll see. Everything is always an experiment. We'll have to see. But that's what gardening's all about, isn't it? We learn and we experiment. Or better said, we experiment first and then we learn from our mistakes or from our successes. You see, it's important always to read how to germinate them, because one of the things about this particular one, it says under no circumstances do you use a heat mat with this, because it'll actually send it into a deep dormancy state and then your seeds would never germinate. Let's cover this now. Let's give it a good douse of water. There we are. Nice and wet. As you see, one of the most important things is to know how to germinate the seeds. There's no point in just saying, oh, my seeds didn't germinate. You have to know whether your seed is looking for light and heat, or in this case, cold and wet. You have to give each seed or each variety the best opportunity to germinate. Then if it fails, at least you've tried your best. But at least we got it right in the first place. So, very sophisticated dome, just popping it over. So this is sophistication at its best. Total high quality in this house. So I'm going to pop this in the fridge and we'll continue now with the last of the seeds. Now, last but not least is another diva. Look at this little packet of seeds. This is a very rare and a very beautiful plant, and it grows on the third tallest volcano in the world. Now, the first two tallest volcanoes are in Hawaii, and the third one belongs to Spain in the Canary Islands on a single island called Tenerife. And the volcano is called El Teide, and this plant is called Tajinaste Rojo or Sangre del Teide, or blood of El Teide. And it's because the red of the flower is not a garish red, but a deep, rich blood colour. And as it ages, it turns blue. Now, it belongs to the Echium or Echium family. In the UK, you will see a different member of the family, which is usually the Pininana. In all, there's about 60 varieties of Echium in the world, and 24 of them are native to Spain. But only one, this one, grows in one single place in the world. So that is how unique and rare it is. Now, this was almost lost to the world in the 20th century through overgrazing. So what they've done to protect it now is within the park, or the national park belonging to the volcano, they've now prohibited all types of grazing animals, and it's making a comeback, slow but sure. And I'm going to put a photo up on the screen of what it looks like in its natural surrounding. You get these beautiful, glorious, red rich flowers on the dark volcanic rock. Absolutely stunning. Now, this is a biennial, a bit like a foxglove. So what that means is the entire growing cycle is 2 years. On the first year, you get a rosette of 30 centimetre blue-greyish leaves, spiky leaves. And then on the second year, it sends up this amazing flower, 3 metres high. And all of it is flower. It's not like a stem and a flower. It's the whole of it is sort of like a conical shaped flower, 3 metres high. Absolutely wonderful. Now, in actual fact, I won't be planting these today, and the reason is that it's not very sophisticated and it does not like this specially prepared seed germination soil. It likes commoner garden potting mix. So I need 50% normal potting mix and 50% perlite. Mix it all together, put it in a pot, and you're away. It doesn't like to be seeded too deep. You just literally put it on the surface and then put a little bit of the soil on top. It likes an area that's cool and shaded, so no heat mats and no grow lights. And it'll take about 2 weeks to germinate, more or less. Now, as you've seen, we've used several different techniques today, and that's the message you have to take home. Each individual seed has its own particular requirements, and once you know those requirements, you're going to get seeds into seedlings, into plants, and then they're going to be out in the landscape by the spring or summer to enjoy. Of course, over the next few weeks, I'm going to give you progress reports, so don't forget to subscribe, of our seeds, both normal ones and our divas. So I'm signing off for the moment, but I'll see you next Friday here in Granny's garden. Bye bye now.